Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Cutlery Above the Rest podcast, where we're exploring the world of tabletop gaming and examining the mechanics and flavor of our hobby. With us today is our usual crew of Armor from Armor Studios, Jake from the White Project, Geo, the role player mediocre, and I am your host, the Simulated Scholar.
Music.
I did too, actually.
Oh, bringing some levity to this, yes. This week we'll be covering what some leftover stuff from Gen Con. We'll also be covering some.
Wait, is it Gen Con?
I think it is Gen Con. I'm so used to call it.
I use Gen Con.
Because it's genre, right? Genre Con?
It's Geneva.
Geneva?
Geneva?
It's in Indianapolis.
Geneva. It's named after the Geneva Convention. It's silly, I know.
That's dumb.
At least that's what I heard. That's what I heard a long
I
time
feel
ago.
like that's wrong, but either way, yeah, it would be Gen Con, not Gen Con.
The Gen Con in Indianapolis. And we'll also be covering some stuff that was done at both, and maybe some that were just revealed at International Spieltag in Essen, Germany. Spieltag just means game day.
The Deutschland.
Yeah, yes, our resident European can help us. And since we did not properly introduce ourselves last week, this week, I'm no one special. I am a theology student, and I have tried making internet videos before and was not very successful. So that's me. Who wants us to go next? Armor.
Alright. ARMR. I got disconnected. I'm connected again. Armor is ARMR. And I do tabletop role-playing game reviews on my channel and discuss tabletop role-playing games.
Geo, you're next on the list.
I play Magic.
Brilliant.
Riveting.
Jake.
I am the WP on YouTube. Everybody just calls me Jake because I don't really do handles. I sometimes make Let's Plays. Most of the time I do nothing. I'm a big fan of doing nothing. So I'm a lot like Sean.
Hey, I'm doing things, just in the real world.
That doesn't count. You know it.
Fair enough.
Jake has a point.
So
You gotta build that audience, son. You gotta.
A brief discussion topic we wanted to go over that Armor
go.
brought up was that Wizards of the
I'm changing my profile pic for this episode so that I match everybody else.
Okay. No Wizards of the Coast presence at Gen Con. Excuse me. So, Armor, since this was something you wanted to start off, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, for the past couple of years, Wizards of the Coast hasn't really had anything at Gen Con. But I've been reading, and usually they do that because since there's another convention called HasCon, which is a horrible name, it's Hasbro's convention, and since Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, they tend to announce and release products there. Instead of, Hasbro letting Wizards of the Coast play with the other kids, they're very controlling.
It's like a possessive relationship.
Yeah, very.
I can kind of understand it too, because it's, like you said, it is within the company, and a lot of companies are recent years going away from the big things and trying to do their own thing. Like Disney has pulled Marvel from Comic-Con in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can make DisneyCon.
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't wait to see all the hardcore Mickey Mouse cosplayers.
Oh yeah.
Nintendo, it'll be Kingdom Hearts Mickey. It'll be King Mickey.
Jesus.
Nintendo has been
Bit of a anyway. It never. There really isn't anything interesting. It's just a slideshow of trailers.
Right, and then they have their own thing, and they do like their little online announcements. But
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
like Nintendo's probably the best because they don't freaking embarrass themselves with fucking live acting or whatever else bullshit all the other companies do. They just fucking announce and show the games, and
yeah.
it's freaking a treat. Just do that.
Anyway, back to
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast. Do you think that merely because of its bigness, its presence within the industry, that Wizards of the Coast should have something beyond a vendor stall at Gen Con? Or do they even have a vendor stall? Do we know?
Back in the day when they were at Gen Con,
Well, definitely then, but like now, do they even have one now?
well, at HasCon they do have a D&D area, and they have a game that you can play every day of the con.
Like to get this like $600. Iconic Masters pre
Alright.
at least.
Yeah, that's cool. Who of you would pay $200 to play at a convention?
Let me
Fuck that.
tell you something. I wouldn't pay to go.
Yeah.
Something like it, or something like that. Like I would pay if it got me stuff. Pay to be in a game. Now, if it's some kind of tournament, then no, I'm still not doing it. But at least I get it.
Yeah. Oh, and a little side note. The reason it's called Gen Con is because of Lake Geneva in Wisconsin. It's the first place they held it at.
That is dumb.
I mean, no, that makes sense. It was held at Lake Geneva, and it was supposed to be the Lake Geneva Convention. Then calling it Gen Con makes sense.
And then it moved
Yeah,
to
that
Indianapolis when it got bigger. Yeah, I see that.
Better than
Yeah.
HasCon.
HasCon I get though, because I mean,
It's a big company. They own multiple brands. Like they have stuff to show, and it's only like a 3-day show anyway.
Yeah, but just call it HasbroCon at that point.
Also
but
true.
that's too many.
That's
It's
gonna
too
be
no.
big.
That's too many syllables for corporate America.
Yeah, like all the big cons are always like Comic-Con or Gen Con, Dragon. It's all really it's short. It's
Yeah,
sweet.
they
You
try to be.
you gotta.
They try to be like hip and cool and
I mean,
riding
they're-
the wave.
There is Dragon Con, and that is, two-syllable word. So is Hasbro.
Yeah, but that's Dragon Con. That's actually cool.
Yeah, HasbroCon. You might as well call it like. Here's the thing: people would truncate it to either HasCon because BroCon sounds dumb. Like it would get truncated to HasCon because people truncate things. Like you
Yeah,
can't call
right.
it DragCon because then that's something else.
I'll be honest. I'd be more interested in going to something called DragCon than Dragon. I feel like at Dragon Con I know what I'm gonna get for sure, but with DragCon,
Oh,
there's a roll of
boy.
the dice there. That's some
That is
risk.
true. That is true. With BroCon, you also have the thing that it could be bronies.
I can see the confusion. Like you just announce something called BroCon, and then you wait and see who shows up: bronies or frat bros. Maybe both.
That'd be
Oh
interesting.
man, I would pay good money to see that.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
Now that's a convention worth $200.
Anyway,
All right.
Moving on.
Yeah. We have the International Spieltag. And so that's
International Spieltag Spiel 17.
yep.
does it have anything to do with Glockenspiels?
I'm not sure.
So
Well,
this
then
is
I've
a shitty
exhausted
outside.
my ability to comment on this.
So this is a convention coming up that like there's a whole chunk of here's stuff that's coming out for Spieltag, which is actually 3 days because it's convention. So it is TAGE makes it plural. I don't know enough about German, but
Mess
a whole
and-
big bunch of previews were basically announced for the convention, and some of it is some overlap with GenCon. And Spieltag's not just tabletop games, it's toys and novelties as well, if case I didn't already say that. And one interesting small game from Gen Con and was yet.
Yeah, this looks weird, but like fun kind of weird.
It looks a little simple too, but in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, it says here playtime 15 minutes. That's interesting.
Once you know how to play.
Ah, okay.
Most of those playtimes are like once you know what you're doing. This game works. Yeah, here's the little video playing down here at the bottom. There's the little sun piece that goes around. And your goal is to get your trees to grow more than any opponent's trees. And thus also have more of your trees on the board. And
so the goal of this game is to get a wood that's bigger than your opponent's.
More or less. And so what you do is you use of your bigger trees to kind of block out sunlight. And it's launched at GenCon. It looks like it'll have some play at Spieltag. Which Spieltag's like a month away from now? More than a month? Near the end of October, I think is what it said.
Oh yeah, it's like, let me see. I can translate that, I think.
Yeah.
It's 26th to 29th of October. So.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
That's
2 months from now.
So I'll actually have more stuff to talk about it when it acts.
And it's in features realistic gameplay. What the hell does that mean?
If you play long enough, an actual tree will grow out of your table.
Well, crap. Play it outside then.
Hey, there we go. That's how you solve global warming.
Yeah, it's an environment-friendly game, even though there were a lot of trees chopped to make it.
Well, the trees will grow right back.
It's cyclical. That's cool.
Yeah. It's like that that environmentally friendly cardboard that has the wildflower seeds in with it. It's like that. If you ever lose your game, just look for where the wildflowers are and you go, well, now I can play for real. Game features realistic gameplay and beautiful graphics.
Oh, God. Some would even say photorealistic.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
I don't know. I'll probably get it. I'm not sure of how is. So what?
The thing about Genesis is that there's barely any information about it because it only had limited playtests during Gen Con.
Wonderful.
Fantasy Flight games is like that.
Game featuring the narrative dice is.
Yeah. But it's like a whatever game you want to play.
Oh, does it include those
GURPS.
weird fucking drama dice?
Yeah, basically it's their GURPS.
Fuck that. Okay, not interesting.
Virtual roleplay system. Why do you need another? Then again, I don't actually know why you need any generic systems at all. If you're not gonna choose you can just adapt an existing system for any setting.
But
a dynamic dice system to squeeze more money out of the players.
And it is more options too. And then you have people like me that
making shit up. Just make up your own rules as well.
Yeah. What I actually would know about is that a lot of these core books include like ideas, and if these ideas were like good ideas, I would be okay. But most of them are just real genre, like sci-fi, horror, whatever fucking genre there is there. And it's like, dude, why do you think I'm buying this book? I don't need these. I already have something in mind. I just need the system. Just give me the crunch.
Oh my goodness! Look at the innovative dice system.
That's very self-important of them, but it is Fantasy Flight games. They take themselves very seriously.
Very seriously.
More than they should.
Yes.
My personal opinion on any kind of generic rule book is that I would never buy it, because if I'm going to pay money for a rule book, it's because I want to use the framework of a setting.
Exactly.
Like I don't want to. I'm not buying a rule book so that I can have a set of rules for my own setting. I want to use that framework for that setting. If I'm going to just use my own setting without using any kind of framework, I could just make up my own rules. I don't need. It's not that hard. It's like I can make up rules right now.
Yeah, just read
You get
off
five.
whatever you
Every
need.
roll is made with 5d20, and the DM, based on your character, assigns a percentage possibility of your success. There we go. I just made up a new rule. There you go. That's for free. That's your new generic roleplay system. You roll 5d20, and you have to get. If you roll over the percentage the DM said, you fail. If you roll under it, you win.
I do want to clarify something though.
You're
That
welcome, America.
I think when Jake means generic system is like these cookie cutter systems that can be used for any setting, like in general.
Yeah.
Not like in Dungeons and Dragons, which is basically a generic system, but it's more geared towards fantasy.
Yeah, it's geared towards fantasy, and also it provides some framework. It provides gods. It provides some basic economic information. You can craft a fantasy setting to Dungeons and Dragons, but it gives you a framework. And it's just to finish this thought, it's the same reason I don't like procedural generation in video games. If I'm paying money for something, I'm paying it because I wanted somebody who put a lot of thought and effort into crafting something that's good and for me to play in. I don't want to just see slapped together pieces of bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically what you're saying is what you don't want is just a book that only gives you rules and nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
If like I said, if it's just rules, I can make up my own rules. When I pay money for a book, I'm paying for a world framework that I can work off of.
I'm okay with this kind of systems when they are actually like unique. Like for example, Fate core system. I think is like a really good generic all-encompassing system because it's actually interesting to read about.
My only interest in the Fate system is apparently there's a Dresden Files RP that's adapted off of that.
Yeah. There's a file games, yes.
And fudge die are really cool too.
Fudge dice are awesome, yeah. And they're not like stupid custom that you can actually just use D60. You don't have to pay extra for custom dice that enhance the experience and are totally not made to just squeeze some more money.
Oh man, fuck the Star Wars RPG because of that.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
one?
The one that
Fantasy Flight game.
Flight games did. Because
Edge of the Empire.
We want to be different. We're Fantasy Flight. Woo!
I like this. Unlimited Adventure, 5 wildly different genres. Fantasy, steampunk, weird war, in other words, occult Nazis. Modern day, because modern day settings always work so well. And sci-fi.
I mean, is it at least gonna feature realistic gameplay?
And brilliant graphics. I don't know, the dice system seems unnecessarily complicated because it looks like it almost requires having the special dice. And
No, it doesn't require. It's built around the fucking dice. That's the problem.
That's like, if you could give me if they have in their book, if they're not talking about it here, fine. But if they have in their book, hey, here's how this combination reads out to this number, this equates to this. So it's an extra step. You have to compare to the chart.
No, but you see, they can't do that because that would make sense.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
They did that. They did that in the Star Wars RPG. There is a table with what numbers mean what symbol, but then you're gonna be referencing that table every single time you roll the dice.
Yeah, it needs to come with
that
cards.
slows down game. Yeah,
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But Fantasy Flight games.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Legend. So, it just looks so boring. It really does, especially if I want to play this, I'll just riffs. Like, like at least then you can just kind of. So next up,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer die.
Yes.
It's been
She already
20
did.
years. I know it's been 20 years.
Like,
It-
look, it was a good movie. It was a good show. Just fucking let it die.
It's a deck building game. Now,
Yes.
deck building games are all the rage. A lot of people like them. They're really fun. I've played a couple of different deck building games, and they tend to be fun.
Play Clank. Clank is fucking. If you haven't played Clank, go buy Clank.
The problem, see, here's the problem. Deck building games are expensive too.
Yeah.
But I'm actually very excited for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer deck building game. I'm interested.
Just before deck building games, you mean like Magic? Or
No,
is deck building like a whole different
No, they
genre?
mean like they come like the objective of the it is like a board game, but you kind of like construct a deck with like during the game you construct a deck. You have a hand. It's a weird combination between a CCG and a board game, but it's cool. Have you ever heard of Dominion? Have you seen Dominion?
No.
Okay, fuck me.
I'm starting to realize.
basically in the deck.
Also, unrelated, I'm starting to realize I am the audience surrogate for the people who don't know as much.
Well, it's always good to have one of those.
In deck building games, usually you have a really big box with all the cards in there. And as the game progresses, you get cards that you use to build your own deck that usually grant you different abilities. Some games have expansion packs that bring you new cards, but they're not like trading card games where the packs are always randomized. The
Exactly.
packs that you buy
So
always
you
have
get
the
like
same
the
card.
whole. You get every card in every set.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
living card game, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I that sounds kind of interesting.
It
Okay.
is.
I love
It
this.
is fun.
I love this statement right here on the Board Game Geek website. Integrates with Legendary, Big Trouble in Little China, and Villains, a Marvel deck building game.
So that means you can have a Big Trouble in Little China combined with Buffy. That's awesome.
Or you can fight Marvel villains with Buffy characters.
Dude, that is
That
kick
would raise
ass.
so many canon questions.
No,
Fuck canon.
Oh, no. If you take Marvel and Buffy, you just have Joss Whedon playing with his toys at night.
Oh my god, that is the best mental image of just Joss Whedon just sitting there holding. He's got Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy just like in one hand. He's got Scarlett Johansson. He's like, now they kiss.
Come on. We all know that he actually does that in real life.
Yeah, probably.
do.
Probably. Okay.
Yeah.
Buffy. Yeah, you know, like it looks interesting, like just the legendary deck building in general, like the 5 big bads, villain group schemes. So it looks like it has a lot of replayability.
Yeah, I love how they just use the images from the show on the cards.
Oh, of
Yeah, it's it's the same thing they did in the Buffy tabletop role playing game. It's just images from the show.
Yeah, I
They're
mean, but
lazy.
that's like understandable,
Shipping.
like a
Yeah.
book, because it is just a book. But come on, you're doing a card game, put some effort into it.
Oh,
But
just since we're on the subject of Buffy, there's one last thing I want to do. I've been doing this little test. Of the main cast of Buffy, Giles, which the main cast we can consider Giles, Xavier, Willow, and Buffy.
Yeah,
Cordelia. Fuck Cordelia.
Eaten with some of these people? Or we're talking about Whedon, Joss Whedon, not Will Wheaton.
We have a
Because Joss-
chat?
Yes, we have a chat. We have 2 chats actually, both the Discord and YouTube.
Oh, are you? Oh yeah, you're streaming. Anyway, but yeah, I just have this theory. 'Cause
Yes, Jake,
I'll-
we're streaming.
almost everybody I talk to, their least favorite Buffy character is usually almost always Buffy.
It's interesting about like sure she gets some character development, but it's like it's not really that. Yeah,
Buffy's the more cookie cutter one because she has to fit a mold. But you have Sander that he changes so much throughout the series. So does Giles.
That role by having Buffy just be a bitch.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't have. We should get back onto what we were doing.
Let's go to the next topic. Bunny Kingdom. What the hell is that?
It is the new game.
It's the best fucking thing I've ever seen.
It is the new game. Richard Garfield, who
A full
never
case.
have
This is 5x5.
okay.
This image is on in Deutsch for some reason.
Is that
But yeah, this seems amazing.
What, Bunny Kingdom?
Yeah.
It looks interesting, that's for sure. The game ends after 4 turns. That's interesting.
The sense for rabbits.
That's true.
That's good. That's good.
But since we're on the subject of Richard Garfield, should we just segue real quick into the Ixalan spoilers?
give us
Yeah, stream's dead.
I mean, we have a couple of things to go over real quick, so we can wait for that, I think.
If the stream's dead, that means we're not being recorded, right?
No, I have a separate
Yep.
recording this time.
Oh, okay.
So so this is being recorded.
I mean, like, it's that or Sean have to do work.
Yeah, no. Let's avoid him that.
All right. So,
Bunny
After
Kingdom.
all this,
an interesting idea. Just civilization building, a Catan-like game. But I like Garfield always kind of puts a twist on things. Like here. After each turn, your group of continuous warrens grants you points depending on the cities and different resources they include. The game ends after 4 turns, and the players with the most points win. So it makes it a relatively quick game.
Board game is whether or not I feel at the end of it if I want to murder the person across the table from me.
that seems like a good metric.
I swear to God, like that's why Monopoly will always be a good board game, because the number of times I said, I swear to God, you put a hotel there, I will shiv you in your fucking sleep, is fairly high.
Well, the playtime is 40 to 60 minutes, which for a civilization game kind of thing,
It's short.
That's short. So
Yeah.
I think that will make, like, for people who like that kind of gameplay,
Short burst.
like, yeah, it's a short
Yeah.
burst, because those kind of games can go anywhere between 2 to 5 to 8 hours depending on.
That's the game time. Does that include setup?
I'm not seeing.
Let's see. It
Well,
looks like they're a little bit. Looks like they're extensive having to build stuff up.
Well, maybe the game is like, as you're playing, you're putting up tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that.
Ah.
Oh, my close out.
Wobble wobble.
That there we go.
Wah, wah, wah.
So it should still be good. But it reminds me of another game that I can't think of. Like, had a bunch of little fantasy on there. Do we want to talk about some of the previews and stuff? More of that, like Gaia Project or Agra. Save that for next week and move on to talking about our mechanical stuff. Is there anything? Oh yeah, and
No, I don't have much to say about it other than the fact that I want you all to know, and I've said it before, and I'll say it every.
Like, thing that called your attention.
Okay, well, that's real quick. There's 2 cards that called my attention right away. So the first card is Rowdy Crew. It drops for 2 RR, so 2 colorless, 2 red, and it has trample. And for that, you draw 3 cards, and that is always a good idea.
You
like,
get to
get card adventure.
Yeah, you get to draw 3, discard 2.
When you do that, when you discard your 2 cards, if 2 of those cards, if those 2 cards share a type, then the Rowdy Crew gets +2/+2. So you're sitting at 4 mana, you draw 3 cards, you've got, say, whatever risk, but you can probably safely discard those 2 lands. Suddenly you're sitting on a 5/5 Trampler for 4, and that is always good.
Damn.
The other one I really like is Ripjaw Raptor, another 4-drop, 2 in green. I'm a really big aggressive aggro player. Green and red are my colors. Ripjaw Raptor, it's 4/5 for 4. It doesn't have any bonus abilities except for one. Whenever it's dealt damage, you get to draw a card.
Nice.
It's the new Enrage ability.
That's pretty
Which
good.
green 4-drop for your opponent, like it either gives you card advantage if your opponent blocks it, or or he's not blocking it and you're swinging in for 4. That is always good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a bit of a control player, so that's actually one I would like. It's Sorcerer's Spyglass. So it's an artifact for 2 mana, and it says when it enters the battlefield, look at the opponent's hand and choose any card name. Activability of sources with the chosen name can be activated and release their mana. So it's a peeking needle. No, yeah, it's literally peeking needle. It's pithing needle with a reveal effect attached to it.
Which can be good. Pithing Needle. Standard has been calling out for Pithing Needle for a while, in my opinion.
Exactly.
A lot of the combo, and especially with Amonkhet, especially between Kaladesh and Oath, there was that whole period where there were just some really dominant decks that could have been completely owned by a Pithing Needle. So even seeing kind of a Pithing Needle light like this is pretty good and different because it's a similar ability, but it's a different ability. But it is better because Pithing Needle is a sideboard card. This one though, you could safely run main board.
Yeah, because the information too is just very valuable depending on what you're against.
Yeah. For control decks, no one's worried because you got to be making certain plays no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And the cycle of lands, the cycle of rare lands for these expansions are check lands, which when they enter the battlefield tapped unless you control a basic land of the type that they are.
Which is always good.
Yeah, which check lands are always good.
Next up is spells. So for our mechanics discussion, this.
Oh wait, I did forget about one. Star of Extinction, 7-drop, 5 red, destroy target land, and then like an afterthought, Star of Extinction deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker.
Jesus.
As a flavor card, it is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
It is the best.
Sorry, I just forgot about it. I just remembered, but yeah, let's keep going now.
It reminds me to the card of the card Meteor that was like deal 13 damage to one creature, and the art was like this one guy super small just fucking watching a meteor about to hit him. It's great.
Its components, power scaling, where it comes from. Spell levels, whether they high magic, low magic, in D&D, spell levels have been up to 9 levels for a long time, and a recommendation for a low magic setting is to have your high power casters, your wizards and your sorcerers, etc., go down to 6 levels, and your half casters, your rangers, your paladins, go down to 3 levels. And there's been some stuff where you just have 6 levels for your casters, at all recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best ways to nerf spellcasters, in my personal experience, is there's that feat you can get in 3.5, eschew spell components.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, don't let people use that. Second of all, if you do let them use that, enforce it. Because I know a lot of people who will take eschew and spell components and then completely not think that they can get away with no regions at all because they don't. It's specific. It's like cheap components you can deal with. But you still have to get the really expensive stuff, which a lot of people forget about.
Well,
Yeah.
it's right here, a pinch of dried powder peas combined with powder animal hoof. That's something eschew materials, eschew components would allow you to hand wave. But alternatively, I think it's even in the in the description there is morsel of food, animal likes, that's a skew. Here we go. So for animate dead, you must place a black onyx gem worth at least 20 gold pieces per hit die of the undead into the mouth or eye socket of each corpse you intend to animate. So once something has a gold value, it's no longer covered, well, not just gold value, a monetary value in the description. It's no longer covered by Askew materials. And that's something you really imposed upon me, Jake, when we played Freelands, is I had to have like jade pieces on me all the time, because there's a few spells that use jade as a reagent. So I basically had like a jade statue I had to chip away at, or a smashed one to begin with.
Yeah, that is, like I said, it's a good way to enforce those rules, is if you actually do enforce them. Like I said, I've seen campaigns where people will, like, the GM's lazy, they don't enforce it, and that's when you really start to see spellcasters just get crazy.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's like, oh, I can prepare to spell, like, 5 times a day, and then usually, like, they don't even, like, if they take a stupid compel opponent, like I said, some DMs are just like, oh, you took a stupid compel opponent, you don't need them anymore, and then that person's like, okay, I'm just going to prepare 5 fireballs, boom, 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 every day. And, like, it can really show, it can really help nerf, just enforcing those spell component rules can really help nerf an enchanter, especially on a prolonged campaign where you keep very careful track of how many spells they couch, how much of those reagents they've used, and once they run out, you actually just put a stop to it. Suddenly, that spellcaster completely useless.
Fireball looks like one of those that would be covered, though.
Yeah, probably would, to be honest.
It is, because it's bag guano and sulfur.
Which is why I also recommend, like, that the other easy way to nerf spellcasters, don't let them take that.
Right.
Take that beat out. Suddenly, your spellcasters are in a lot worse of a position.
Well, if you do that, you also have to, like, nerf a little bit the spell component pouch, because as it's written, it states that basically it has all components they would need for casting.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, just make it have weight or something, like, like, have them keep track of, like, some generic stuff, like, part of the idea is the pouch is you're also collecting pieces as you travel.
Yeah.
So things like back guano and sulfur, if you're doing dungeoneering, that makes sense. But if the party hasn't been in a cave for a month in game, and they cast and that spellcasters cast fireball a few times, then maybe they can't cast fireball anymore, or they got to buy a new pouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, like I said, though. Basically, end of the day, easiest way to nerf spellcasters is to really enforce the spellcasting rule.
Yeah, and just if they want to make something really powerful, just like an idea you can do is allow them high level spells at lower levels, but enforce that rule and change the ingredients, make it something very hard to get, make it an adventure, like make it part of the ongoing campaign. You can feel that time while you're working on something bigger with that.
Like, make a wish component require some sort of, like, magical flower that only blooms once a year on top of a mountain that is filled with monsters.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would make sense. Something I heard for a little bit spellcasters is give them a caster level check before they can cast a spell. That's all in Fantasy Age. You don't just cast the spell. You actually have to roll to be able to cast the spell. And if you failed, then you miscast and you lose the spell.
Yeah, that would make things interesting. That's supposed to be covered under the concentration. I think that there's a way with concentration to make it fairer, but I don't know what it is. Probably. That's one thing you got to remember with any kind of rule set. Sometimes you gotta massage the rules. You don't change the rules, but you massage them. You change them just a little bit.
Yeah, because concentration also has like its own table of different modifiers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's a lot of movement and stuff like that, because it's something that people forget. You know, if you're in a boat and the boat is rocking, and if you're gonna cast a spell, you have to do a concentration check by raw,
Yeah.
because there is violent movement, and you're not gonna be able to concentrate that well on your somatics and whatever other components you have.
But you know what? And this is me segueing, and I'm pointing it out because I want this to be the clumsiest segue, which it actually could have been a smooth segue. Is that there's another way to nerf spellcasters, and the way I did it involves the Pantheon within my campaign setting, which is our next topic: Pantheons and Reids.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think this is a thing that goes back and forth because you do have those sources of magic, and those sources can either be directly religious, or like you can have non-deific sources be intertwined into a sort of philosophy religion a la the Force.
I'm not sure what your point was and all that.
So, like, you could have straight up, like, divine casters where they get their power from gods. Or you have, like, druids who they have divine casting, but it comes from nature. Well, in that thought, you could kind of combine the divine nature and arcane field of energy into a single concept, and you get something like the Force, where there's just this source of magical energy where casters get their strength from, you know?
Yeah. Well, in my personal campaign setting, what I did is I just removed arcane casting entirely. And then divine casting, basically in my setting, divine casting is a literal gift from God. So there's multiple gods within the world, and they are physical entities that that the players can meet and talk to, and those gods can give you the ability to cast a spell. You can't take levels in the cleric or spell casting. You have to literally win the favor of a god who will give you the ability to cast a spell. Which is how I handle power creep with spell casting.
I can see that is a good way to do it. Kind of warlocky, cleric-y, like this is a direct gift. Let's roll back a little. Something that was made a note here. Spell components to add additional effects to spells.
Yeah,
Now,
back in a couple of books in 3.5 and 3.0 actually contain like additional components you can buy to grant additional effects to your spells.
you know,
Since we were talking about the whole
what you got there. I'm not sure if that's me or not.
sorry. Since we're talking about the whole spell component thing, I wanted to bring that up. That some books actually contain things you could buy as a player.
Like a shopping catalog?
Not so much so. Like it's treasure the game master can have there, and honestly, the examples I'm gonna give are probably not the best ones for players because they come from the Book of Vile Darkness. But for example, a humanoid heart. When you use a humanoid heart as an additional spell component, your caster level increases by 2.
I see what you're saying. I mean, I'm into kind of alchemical stuff sometimes for my spell casting. I bit my tongue recently, so the using different metals in this regard is one thing. So like if I could spell like a bit of no, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. For Fire Trap, a half pound of gold dust costing 25 GP sprinkled on the warded object for Fire Trap. Like change the metal out. Like instead of needing the there's the one meta magic feat that lets you change your change the energy type of a spell like this. So, go ahead.
Add mixture. Spell and mixture.
Okay. So instead of needing that meta magic feat, you could change the material component of the spell, and it'll change things. So instead of gold dust, do silver dust, and it becomes whatever breath weapon silver dragons use, like cold, I think.
Maybe.
Or like you could just say silver's cold and have like copper become electric damage.
Yeah.
Brass becomes sonic damage.
Yeah, it's a thing that hasn't been explored as much, because you're a warrior, you're a fighter, you have all these different materials you can make your weapons from. But for a spellcaster, it'd be really cool if you could just go out and buy additional different spell components to get different effects on your spells, like what you just said. That you can change the element.
Green on my dashboard. Can just one of you check it? Oh, it
All
just
right,
went out.
I'll-
There we go.
Sure.
So it's going in and out. It keeps
That's
going
what she said.
in.
Looks alright to me.
Looks like it's working to me. Yeah.
All right, so it's just
I'll
going
go to
in and
YouTube
out.
now.
Great. It's just going in and out. Wonderful. Well, I'll have to upload the recorded version. I wonder if recording it at the same time is taking up enough CPU time that's making this difficult.
It's possible.
That's such a toss-up I'm not happy with, because I would like to be able to edit if need be. Like, if we lose stuff, I have the backup. Oh, I'm not thrilled about that.
Just slap the image of the podcast and just upload the sound.
So
I think there should be more of that, because it would, because spellcasting can be a little bit boring, because it's just okay. You point. It's silly that calling spellcasting boring, but it's just you point your finger and shit happens.
let's see, what is it? It's ice knife. What was it? Ice
And it'd be
knife?
cool also as a spellcaster be able to research different material and reagents to get different effects.
Yeah, like using like a lot of the ice spells sometimes require you to have like ice knife, drop of water, or a piece of ice. Like you could mix something in with that piece of ice, and it all of a sudden has an additional effect. You know?
Mhm.
Like maybe there's some acid in there, and like or poison or some kind. I don't know.
Because it'd be cool also for a game master to be able to build a treasure trove with things like that.
All right, let's get back to them gods and religion. Because they can be a source of magic, but they can also be a source of problems. They can also be a source of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Goddamn Hexator.
You keep adding a vowel.
I add as many vowels as I want. I will keep adding vowels to his name until I am satisfied. His name is
Vowels
now
are
Hexablexabecasdecadigator.
Alright.
Whatever I want it to be, man.
So
So I take it you don't like Hextor.
He's the main villain in Sean's campaign. So
So in the game I'm currently running, I borrow pretty much everything out of deities and demigods. And then some. So I have a War of the Gods brewing in my game. And Hextor has banded together Kurtelmak and Groomish under him in an attempt to build a pantheon of evil gods and basically take over the world. course.
And fighting against it is a couple of schmucks.
Pretty much. Which they've been pretty successful so far. Like they're going out trying to recruit other gods to their cause, as the bad guys are doing the same.
Yeah, like we won over the
Yeah,
Norse pantheon. We've won over like what's left of the Norse pantheon. We won over what's left of the Greek pantheon, more or less.
You gotta get Zeus's ass, this bitch.
Zeus is dead.
Oh, fuck.
There's only
Within the context of his campaign world, the traditional D&D pantheon has taken the place of what would have been the Christian, like Catholicism, and basically that pantheon basically already did a war of the gods where they took out a lot of the other original pantheons. The Egyptian, Norse, Greek ones have all suffered some.
no.
heavy
Egyptian's
casualties.
still there. Egyptian replaces Islam. Remember?
Oh yeah, right. Okay, so then, just
Greek
those
and Norse.
guys.
Yep. So yeah, it's quite interesting. But I'm working on a new setting, which I'm trying to get the framework together before I open it up to our little community for world building. Is the I'm not really sure how I want to do gods exactly, but I do want to make them a little more distant. Like, I like the idea of more indirect deities, and that way, when a deity does do something, or an agent of that deity, it's like a big deal. Like, saints and miracles matter when they happen.
So kind of like it's like the real world, but there's but like there's like we know for sure like the gods aren't like they don't have like people know for sure because there's good accurate historical records kind of thing.
Yeah, more. I mean, something like that. Part of it is also like I have different tiers of gods. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it real quickly. But just trying to. So pretty much, I had 4 tiers, but I can't remember the lowest right now. So there are the gods heroic, which are which are basically, there we are. That's what I was looking for. Ah, right. So the lowest tier is the gods heroic, and these are basically people who have done great deeds in life and ascended to a certain level where they're worshipped as gods. Like they're basically like saints or like more traditional ancestor worship. Like they are typically worshipped by those who come from the same culture they did, and if you were standing before one, you may not recognize they were a god right away, even if they weren't hiding it, unless the god heroic was actively exuding a divine presence. They still look as they did when they were mortal, but can change the age of their appearance. If you are well versed in the lore of the region, you may recognize one, even if they were trying to hide themselves. So that's my lowest level of god. And those are probably the ones you would interact with the most. And some may have holy men underneath them, but their miracles, their divine presence won't be much more beyond something associated with them. So like a cleric doing some healing, a cleric doing something on the battlefield, like being a boost of some kind, or some kind of battle, or something associated with their patron. But it's not going to be big, grand spells like, I've raised all the dead, like perfect resurrections, or like plague curing, stuff like that, you know? like those 7th, 8th,
Yeah.
and 9th level spells. And then beyond that, I have what I call the Gods Manifest, which are more traditional gods. And they're more distanced, but they do interact, but occasionally. Beyond them, there are the Gods Ancient, which are basically Lovecraftian beings. And some of them are just kind of ancient. They're just there from the beginning of the universe. Who knows why they exist? Some gods manifest, the second tier. They either came into existence on their own because manifestations of some philosophical facet, or a god ancient made lesser gods under them. There's a variety of reasons. And then at the very tippy top, there's something I call the essence. It is the source of creation. There is a lot of theological debate about whether the essence is aware or not, and whether it is worthy of worship. So it's basically the source of creation, and people kind of wonder, well, is the essence a conscious entity? Is it actually a god, or is it just energy that the gods ancients sprang forth from, and then everything else sprang forth from there?
You know what's kind of funny is that essence thing you're talking about is actually kind of like I don't write much about it, but in my head, like when I write stories, they all take part of like a greater multiverse theory, and I have a very similar idea to the essence in that particular bit of canon.
So you guys,
So we're I just think it's kind of funny we both came up to a very similar idea.
I mean, it's not the idea, like, it's not like you and I do come up with a lot of similar ideas anyway, but it's not like this is another incident. Oh, Sean and Jake came up with something similar again. Like,
Yeah, it's not that far-fetched. It's something that comes up a lot.
I mean,
It's not like that time in the Deadlands where you came in with a Texas Ranger, a no-nonsense Texas Ranger, and I came in with a no-nonsense U.S. Marshal. Literally the same characters, just on the other side of the fence.
But no, like, the idea of chaos in Greek and Egyptian mythology, the Brahma, if I'm thinking of it correct, in Hindu mythos, and to a certain extent, Yahweh in Judeo-Christian. Now, in the Judeo-Christian, God definitely cares and has more in common with Brahma than Chaos, because Chaos was female essentially, but like really didn't give a crap about anything. Like, she was the source of everything, but she was very distant. Like, the gods that were worshipped were like 4 generations removed from her. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So your what do you call your version of the essence, Jake?
It's just magic. It's the idea within my my multiverse theory is that it's basically it's magic sort of, but it's basically like all universes, all parallel universes, all sub-universes, they all spring off from this greater source wellspring of magic, and like basically it just randomly creates new little bubbles of reality as it kind of it's caught in its own like little time loop thing where basically it stretches out throughout all of time until it hits the end of time, at which point all magic ends, but in that ending it re-begins and it comes back around over and over again, and all those universes are reborn and remade constantly. And it's like there's a question on whether or not the force of magic is sentient, whether or not it's or whether it's just raw creative power that is like it's just raw energy that can do whatever.
Armor, you got any kind of unique spin on gods and religion for any kind of setting you're building?
I like to say I do, but the thing is that I basically do the same that you guys do too. I have like my own, all my games that I run. I run them basically, even though it's different settings, it's like its own multiverse where I have things from different games spill over to different games. So usually, like I have also like an overgod thing going on. However, in one of the setting, it's known as the Keeper, and I wanted to
Ooh.
mention that because since we talk about religion and how you can use it to shape world building, something that people say, like here in reality, a lot of people say, Judeo-Christians say God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that setting, they tell you, may you be kept, may the Keeper keep you, may you be kept in good health, and things like that. They tend to use the word keep and kept a lot, and that to me feels like I use it a lot in that setting to have players be a little bit more immersed in it.
I really like that actually because it does, like you said, it builds immersion, and the way you described like the Keeper briefly kind of has me thinking of a more benevolent Lady of Pain.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going for.
Oh, fantastic!
That's actually very surprising. But like I have different settings, and in each setting, I try to make gods very different from each other. Like I have one setting where the gods are very present. Like you can go to the god's main temple and go talk to the god. However, the gods still do the whole thing that we will not involve ourselves directly with humanoid affairs.
See, I'm kind of doing like not the indirect, but you can go talk to them with Teshev, the campaign I'm currently running, where I use the D&D.
Alden High Five Pan.
That's
Hell
true.
yeah.
Alden did High Five Pan, where I'm using like mythos mentioned in deities and demigods, and like the D&D pantheon. Like it's not like the gods are just there to go talk to, but if you find them, they are conversable if they are amenable to that at the time. And like they definitely do interfere with things, but it's not, oh, my wonderful acolyte here, let me help you. It's like, oh, this acolyte's been pretty worshipful and helpful in helping me further my plans. They need a little boost. Let's see. Will this boost help me? Ah, it will. Okay, I will help them helping me. Good. Here we go. Like, the gods are, to varying degrees, selfish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're gods.
In my campaign setting, I touched on it briefly, but like basically what's going on in that, like I said, the gods are physical entities within the world. They have their own, they have abodes and all that kind of stuff. And what's maybe a little bit different is that in my character, in my setting, the gods aren't immortal. But there's in my setting, there's not just a handful of gods. There's thousands of gods. They're gods for everything. And how nice and how amenable they are really depends on what they are. Like, if you met the god of the field mice, and it's kind of a thing where, like, you can go out and you can literally kill a god. It's entirely possible. Especially some of the weaker gods are weak enough that they could be killed by a group of mortals fairly easily. The only advantage the gods have is that they can all use magic, but not all of them are combative.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you can go out and kill a god, but it raises, like, you're going to cause some trouble if you do.
Yeah. So when it comes to gods, like, whenever anybody it's building a setting, like my general advice would be to think about what gods are in the setting and how religion shapes and molds the setting, because just by religion and gods alone, you can have an entirely unique setting.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it will inform the way people are willing to interact.
Mm-hmm. It promotes immersion. It promotes, people maybe actually being interested in your setting. So, it's those sort of things that maybe to some people are not that important, because maybe it's like, oh, my game doesn't have divine spellcasters. Oh, in my game, like, religion is not that important. But, think about the world itself, and how much you can get from different pantheons, different religions, and different gods, because you can base not only whole campaign settings, you can base whole games, whole adventures based around those things.
And it also provides trappings for the world where you could have like shrines along certain paths or intersections, or
Yeah,
graveyards have distinct markers.
that's true.
And
If you're, I'm with you guys. If you're going to have a setting without gods, there needs to be a compelling reason for it. People tend to create people will always create things to worship because they look for understanding and for answers. If you're gonna try and say your setting has no gods, there has to be a real good reason for it. You can't just say, "Oh, our people never had the idea that there might be a divine power."
You can have the people believe in gods, but you can have the gods not be real.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Like as long if it can certainly be just the gods aren't real, but at the end of the day, you have to have a reason why there's no god mentioned at all.
Yeah, like
If you want,
you're not gonna have. Yeah, you're not gonna have a setting just filled with atheists and nobody believes in gods. Because
you could have something where that's like decreed by the government of whatever kind.
yeah, but then you fall into what Jake said. You have a reason for it.
Right. You do have a
And
reason.
people were raised to
what I'm
believe
saying-
and behave that way.
What I'm saying is, you can't just say that somehow magically your entire human race at no point ever was just like we all just suddenly decide we're atheists. There is no gods. Like that doesn't make any sense. There always has to be some kind of reason.
And it's our Laura, our watcher, our viewer mentions that in reading Narnia, the animals that spoke all swore by the lions because Aslan was a lion, and that really gave her immersion and probably really put forward that idea of, oh, this is a different world. There's not just talking animals.
Yeah, it adds to the setting.
Mm-hmm.
Because last week we talked about different languages and how people talk and mention different things, but the same can be applied to religion. How they have different mannerisms, different cultures, and different customs for different religions, and the things that people would say. Because in a setting where you have maybe a bunch of different gods, and you have a character that maybe, let's say he worships Zeus, maybe he won't say "God damn it" as a curse. Maybe he'll say something else.
By the thunder of Zeus.
Yeah. What are some like Shakespearean used Greek things? It's like I can't really think of anyone's. I know that sometimes they see like by somebody's beard or stuff like that. You hear that
By Odin's raven.
Yeah, by Odin's raven, by Odin's beard, by
Odin's
Saint
eye.
Cuthbert's beard as well. I've heard in D&D.
Mm-hmm. Odin's eye is a common one too. I do know of that one, like for real.
Yeah. Like there's a cuss in Spanish that really does not translate that well into English, but basically translates to lightning strike you, but like saying it in a very forceful way. Like I would see someone that worships Zeus saying lightning strike you as a fuck you.
I don't know that one.
Because again, in Spanish is "marrayo palta," but it's really difficult to translate
I
that
have
into English.
never heard that.
Well, you're in Spain,
Because
Spain.
Yeah,
That's also true.
You speak classic Spanish. He speaks the variables that we have over here in the New World.
Yeah, it's like how people from America speak English, and then people from the UK speak that British shit.
British shit. I was gonna say that Americans speak American.
We don't speak just American. Like, we have a few dialects here and there.
No, that I know. That I know. It's like just making fun of it because he said like the British shit.
Well, I mean, yeah, but we do speak American. It is a different dialect from British English.
If we do have any British audience, I apologize.
Yes.
Now or in the future. Let's see.
Moving on.
We don't have anything to move on to, or I think we might be done. A little about 6
Oh.
minutes early.
Okay.
Is there anything we want to cover back over on?
We can cover the commander decks real quick.
Sure. You two are the ones that'll know about that.
Alright, commander decks.
I mean, did anybody actually get anything that wasn't the Scion of the Ur Dragon deck or the Ur Dragon deck?
I actually think the dragon decks were like one of the fewest popular. Like all of them were popular. Though. That was like the slightly less popular, mostly because I think of the mana base,
Yeah, it is a complicated mana base.
which is basically tap land dot deck.
I won't really go into this. I don't have much to say about them. I was seriously considering getting one of them, but I'm actually trying to cut down on my personal collection, and I knew that if I got the commander deck, it would soon be just I would trying to get rid of it almost immediately.
Yeah, like the thing with the dragon is that they didn't even put chromatic lantern on it.
Yeah, that would have been a good addition to that list.
Yeah. So I got new cards. Miriweather like Duelist is pretty cool. She's a green and white for a 3/2 with first strike, legendary creature Cat Warrior. Whenever she attacks, each opponent can't block with more than one creature this combat, and as long as she's tapped, no more than one creature can attack you each combat.
That's pretty good.
So
The one card I thought looked the best was probably Balin Wandering Knight, just from the another cat knight. Just because having first strike and then upgrading that to double strike if he's got two equipments with an ability that lets you just put all your equipment on him, that's really strong in a long
he's
game.
another really strong Voltron. I put a link on the documents to the deck lists.
But yeah, like I said, these decks weren't trying to reduce my collection, which probably says all you really need to know about them.
Yeah, I mean, the Commander 2016 decks were so much better.
Yeah, they were. But they do have some interesting cards if you can get... if you have the money to spend on them, I would suggest picking up the one that interests you most. The Vampire deck's actually, even just as is actually pretty good. I had somebody play that against me the other day, against my Hydra deck, and it did some really cool tricks just as is. My Hydra deck still demolished it because my Hydra deck is a really well-built deck, and that's me saying it like without any combos or anything like that. But still, it's a strong deck. The Dragon deck also really good.
The Dragon deck just kind of needs a lot of time to get going because, like I said, tapped land, top deck. Yeah,
the Dragon deck's really good in a long game, and also just who doesn't like 5-color pits.
I love how they didn't put in Chromatic Lander, but they put in fucking Fist of Suns.
Oh yeah, because everybody needs Fists of Suns.
Yeah. Oh my god. The Wizards deck I think is like the one with the most potential to have raw power, especially because of Inala's ability, which is whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 and you can create a token that's a copy of that creature, and it gains haste, and then you exile at the end of turn.
Which one was this?
And,
I got the deck list up on the...
this is Arcane Wizardry. It's the commander for
What was the creature you meant?
Well,
Inala.
Oh, that's the commander itself. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
with the Inala deck, I will say that it's probably going to be pretty good, especially with the Locust God just being released. It's got an Arcanus in it, if I remember correctly, and Arcanus with the Locust God might as well just be you win the game.
Yeah, it's got a couple of very spicy rebreeds. Actually, has Marchesa, the Black Rose, not the Queen Marchesa. It has Azami. Azami's freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
But
yeah, these decks have some really good cards in them, but they're not the best constructed commander decks we've ever seen, and they're not super spicy.
Yeah, like if you still can, and if you can get them for price, I would personally recommend the Commander 2016 or just any of the previous year. I think this is probably the weakest year outside of the monocolored ones, because I think the monocolored one is just pathetic because they were monocolor. I
will. So, what was I going to say? If you're looking for suggestions on which deck you should buy, I would say either the Vampire one or get Arcane Wizardry, tear out all the black, replace your commander with the Locust God, get a whole bunch more draw spells, and you've got yourself a pretty decent draw spell deck.
Yeah, and actually the Wizard deck has probably the most busted alternative commanders. It has Kess, Dissident Mage, which is really ridiculous. It's a blue, a black, and a red for a legendary creature, human wizard. It's 3/4 with flying. During each of your turns, you may cast an sorcery card from your graveyard. If a card cast this way, we put into your graveyard this turn, exile this set. So it's a free Snapcaster Mage every single turn.
It is, which
Which card was that? You said it kind of fast.
Kess, Dissident Mage.
Oh, okay, so you're still on the same deck. I was looking at other decks too, like the Vampire Bloodlust deck.
Yeah, and Mysil the Pretender, also from the Arcane Wizard deck, is also has some really fun combo potential. 1 blue, black, and red for 4/4 human wizard, a legendary creature. When Mysil the Pretender enters battlefield, you may exile an artifact or creature card from your hand or graveyard and put a cage counter on it. Mysil the Pretender has all activated abilities of all cards you own in exile with the cage counter on them. You may activate each of these abilities only once each turn. So basically, you exile an Aetherling with this guy, and he goes down. Is what happens.
Yeah.
I am so far removed from this stuff.
Yeah, I know. You don't like Planeswalkers.
I mean, I kind of like some of them, like at least flavor-wise, but I wasn't a big fan of the mechanic, and I've tried to get back into it, but also just like there's a bunch of different things.
I'm the same. I don't like Planeswalkers.
I think Planeswalkers don't like. I like the card itself and the mechanics itself, but I don't think they have. I think they are very limited on the design space.
We need to go back to pre-mending power levels, get rid of Planeswalkers cards. We need to be designing our own universes again, make Planeswalkers great again.
Scholar, this is you. This is you right here. I'm posted on Counter Monkey.
I won't lie, I like Planeswalkers as a mechanic. I like Planeswalkers as a mechanic. I like that they got nerfed power-wise within the lore. It's better. It's not ideal, but it shows that the game's changing and evolving. I like when they add new I like when they take risks and take out new mechanics. And the Planeswalkers also add a bit of strategy that I actually do enjoy.
Oh, talking about old mechanics. Oh yeah, the Wizard deck also has Nin the Pain Artist, which has a pretty cool deck of her own. Anyway, which deck had it? Instance, Chaos Memory into Royal, Opportunity, Reality Shift, Terminate, no. Then look for the Ferris Protection. There it is, the Vampire deck, weirdly enough. So I freaking love this card. It's so good. So it's 2 and a white for instant. All permanent you control phase out. Exile the Ferris Protection. This is so funny. I love it. Put that into any stacks deck, any combo deck that you have, because that just protects everything. Anyway, Moving on.
Yeah, but I think it is definitely. I think the game, like, I like to see games change and evolve, and as the old fogey card that Geo posted into the Discord chat demonstrates, there was a lot of shitty fucking mechanics and
Exactly.
rules.
No, I mean, cumulative upkeep, I will stand behind. Mana
Screw
burn.
you, Criminal Allspeak was the dumbest thing ever.
Alright, nah.
No person in their right mind would ever play a cumulative upkeep card. Any card with cumulative upkeep, I automatically know I'm not going to play it because it's
There
not
were one or
worth the
two.
mana.
There were one or two that were.
Mystic Remora would like a word with you.
And you know
Mystic
what?
Remora is not that great.
And you know what? I also stand by mana burn.
Fuck off.
No, dude, fuck you. Seriously.
It
the
made
hell?
you think about the game. You had to
did,
manage
it
your
made you think.
resources.
How many people that you know actually knew about Mana Burn Plus? Like a new player,
Everyone.
If you told him about Mana Burn, it would make he would just say it makes no sense because it makes no sense.
It made perfect sense. Within the lore of the game, it made perfect sense because what it is you have memories of lands you have visited and meditated on, and you pull mana from the land, and if you hold on it too long, it burns you. Like, you actually channel magic through your brain. In the dark, there is a creature called the Fallen, or the Fallen, just the Fallen. And what it is a regular wizard, not a planeswalker, a regular wizard who mana burned out but didn't die. And they now cause serious damage.
Oh, and has a fucking the creepiest fucking picture.
Look, Mana Burn makes sense from a lore standpoint, but from a gameplay standpoint, especially when they decided to include the ability, they decided to throw in Mindslaver in the Mirrodin block or Scars of Mirrodin, whatever it was. It's just not fair.
It's just a really bad contraption mechanic it just doesn't work. It's not elegant at all.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I will agree the game moved past it being reasonable, but I think the game shouldn't have done that. I think that Mana Burn was
I think that you are an old fogey. You are a dinosaur wearing glasses because a game for a game to stay interesting and compelling, rules and mechanics and everything, it needs to change over time. That has been the source of Magic's success, is that it hasn't insisted on staying the same game. It has grown and evolved.
I agree there because and I honestly think that Wizards of the Coast have done a really good job. Even though that I personally don't like Planeswalkers, they've done a really good job keeping Magic the Gathering fresh, unlike Konami, which utterly destroyed Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Went too far in the wrong direction where I couldn't even play the game now. I have no idea what any of that shit does.
I feel that without Mana Burn, it's power creep, I feel. Like, things are, it
is power creep. The average power of creatures is a lot larger now, and the game that's not a bad thing because it's not like only one person got the power creep. Everybody got the power creep, and it makes the game feel like it makes you feel a little more badass.
All times spells were just so busted compared to creatures because creatures were shit, and now the power level has shifted where creatures are great and spells they're still good, but they're not amazing like they used to be.
Alright, okay.
And look here. Just so you don't say I'm like a hipster, I will stand for you.
I follow you, and it was time to wrap up. Actually,
I will. One last thing, I will stand for one old mechanic, which is damage that went on the stack. I think that created some really interesting stuff, and they shouldn't have gotten rid of it.
All right, anybody want to wrap up here? Do their plugs?
No. But. Let's get out of here before what's his face has a chance to plug his channel.
Armor, you want to plug your channel?
Yep, Armor Studios at YouTube, and remember that I feature realistic gameplay.
So, at what point did you cut him off, Sean? I'm just curious.
I didn't cut him off. Yeah.
Damn you.
Well,
Is there a particular video you want people to watch, Armor?
What?
Particular video that you recently did that you want people to watch?
Oh yeah, the Starfinder first impressions.
Yeah, okay. Go check that video out, people. It'll be in the end card here.
And before we end, remember, pirates are always better with dinosaurs.
Ah.
Hell yeah.
All right. Have a good afternoon.